Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick here with you as always, and thanks for joining us for episode number 103. So today we're back to the Irish whiskey side of things, and we've got another good one from Powers, and that's the Powers 3 Swallow release. It's been quite elusive over the past few years that I've known it to be in existence. So in terms of getting it in the U.S., it's been pretty hard. You usually had to go overseas to Ireland or order it from Ireland or someplace online like Master Malt or that sort of thing. So happily enough, I did find this on the East Coast in a shop in New York and was able to get that shipped over to where I am now. So that was helpful. You may have noticed that I've already got it out in the glass. That's because, as you can tell by the bottle, that I've just opened it. So I had a pretty decent neck fill to it. Just poured myself a little bit just to get initial aromas, taste, that sort of thing before I did the review. But also because I found out that giving the bottle a little bit more time to breathe, and then in turn giving the whiskey in the glass a little bit more time to breathe, really helps things open up. You know, it's sort of like things have been boxed up in the packaging. It's probably sat in there for whoever knows how long since it was bottled and however long it stayed in there. So just giving it a little bit of time to mix in with the oxygen and that sort of thing really helps deliver better, not only aromas, but better taste. From my experience, that's been the case. Because you can go ahead and I could do a review at this level of the bottle, and then I can go all the way down to sort of the end, and there might be some different nuances that I can pick up from there, things that have changed or things that I couldn't pick up that I did from the first time. So that's why I poured a little bit just to give it time to open up. So I'll dig right into it. It's bottled at 43.2%, so that sort of harkens back to the traditional Powers that would have been exported at that 43% ABV point. So they've kept honor of that. It is non-chill filtered, and also their Powers, just the entry level standard bottling, is also non-chill filtered, which for a Irish whiskey that's under 46% ABV is not too common. So most of these won't say that it's non-chill filtered if it's under that 46% ABV. This does. It's right there on the bottom, and it's probably also on the cardboard box as well. Another point about this that I like, and regardless of the traditional Powers branding, that you know this is a bottle of Powers just by obviously the 3 swallows, which is sort of a tradition of there to indicate quality and age and that sort of thing. You used to say 2 or 3 swallows in determining that. But the one thing that I like about the Powers marketing is that it's really not over embellished. All of the information that they give you in terms of marketing and all that sort of stuff is really useful, especially if you're into the history of not only Irish whiskey, but the particular brand itself, because obviously this is owned by Middleton, which is owned by, or is Irish Distillers or Pernod Ricard, so it's part of a bigger conglomerate, but it has some pretty deep roots in the Johns Lane distillery. So where actually the Powers used to be made, I think back in the 70s was the most recent time where it was still being made. So that's what I like about that. It's not an overly embellished marketing claims about things being smooth or, all that sort of crap that you get nowadays with the marketing, especially with the newer emerging source whiskeys that are out there that are making these claims to say that, it seems like they, scooped the whiskey right up out of the ground or something in the magical Holy Land in Ireland and, went right from, actually the rivers of this beautiful elixir, that's been, these companies that have just been around for millions and millions of years, it would seem. It would seem like they should be listed as the first companies that ever existed because they're so grand and they're rooted in such deep history and ties to family and prominent people, and it's all just bullshit, really. But you don't get that with Powers. You get that You get the real sense of history. If you get the John's Lane, which you can check out my review, you get a huge map, or a drawing rather, of what it used to look like, and you get some travel recordings that Alfred Bernard had done when he had toured distilleries in Scotland and Ireland, which is really cool. All those things are helpful, and none of those things are making false claims to be what they're not to be. So that's just my little plug there. So if you didn't catch it already, this is a single pot still Irish whiskey. The entry-level Powers, because some people think that all Powers is just single pot still Irish whiskey. That's not true, because just the entry Powers line is going to be pot still whiskey, which this is, but also mixed in with some grain whiskey. So just make sure that you can tell the difference there. But this, like the Powers John's Lane, is a single pot still Irish whiskey, which used to be known as a pure pot still Irish whiskey. So the color is a very pale straw, slightly amber toned color. One of the things that you're not getting that you might get with the Powers John's Lane is the age statement. So there's no age statement on this. I have no clue whatsoever how old this is. One of the things that I always like to do with whiskeys that you don't really know the age, and you know that there may be some older aged whiskey in there, it's just to give it a little bit of a roll around the glass, and you can sort of see, just like a wine connoisseur might do, is just see the legs trickling down the glass, and the faster they fall down there, the younger it probably is. But it doesn't give you an exact age, just gives you an idea. They are some pretty slow falling trickles going down the glass, so it probably does have some decent age to it over the 3-year minimum, which is nice. So let's get into the nose. The first thing that you get off of this is one of the first things that somebody told me I was going to pick up on this, and that's this really powerful sense of a freshly baked banana bread, which is really interesting. Some lovely citrus notes in there. And it's very cereal heavy, very grain forward. A lot of those malted barley notes, the fresh grain, like a fresh bakery at 5 a.m. in the morning, fresh baked bread. It's got all those types of notes to it. But really soft, really delicate on the nose, other than that overly abundant banana bread note that I pick out of it. Nothing overly jarring. It's all very subtle, nicely packaged together. So let's go in for the taste. So, in what is typically not always the case, is that you get flavors similar to what you nosed. And I know that seems like it would just go hand in hand together, but a lot of occasions I've noticed that those two can be completely different. You might smell something and then never actually get that taste when you go in for it. But this has that initial baked banana bread note. It's really creamy. The citrus fruits are there. This little hint of spice there kind of sticks on the tip of the tongue. But one of my favorite things about this, and it's one of the distinguishing characteristics of single pot still Irish whiskey, is just the creamy texture of the mouthfeel that you get on it, which is unlike any other whiskey category that's out there. It's just this beautiful creamy texture. You feel like you're getting something that is really just well crafted. It has sort of this old-timey feeling to it. It's sort of like you just walked into a historic building that's hundreds and hundreds of years old. Just got a really nostalgic quality to it in that sense. I'm going to pour myself a little bit more of this. Just want to take a final swig there of the review. But one of the things that's interesting, and if you have the Powers John's Lane, this would be a great one to do side by side to, because even though it has a similar mouthfeel, it's not totally the same. they are different in the sense that this is very soft, citrusy, banana fruit forward notes, and it is pretty steadfast throughout the whole journey from the initial tasting of it all the way to the finish. With the Powers John's Lane, you would get something that's a little bit heavier, a little bit more robust, earthy, spicy notes, things that I've picked out. And it's been a long time since I had it, but since it's one of my favorite whiskeys, it's pretty easy to talk about. Some kind of tobacco-y notes, leather polish in there. But totally contrasting to this, I think they would be a great, side by side if you want to do a more advanced tasting, if you will. That would be something cool to compare. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Three Swallows release is going to be a permanent expression in the Powers lineup, as far as I know. So, as for now, I believe it's here to stay. I'm hoping that it becomes more and more prevalent in the U.S. market so that people can start getting their hands on it and tasting it, because a lot of people were sort of pushed out of that opportunity just because of the price of shipping things, and just making that purchase worth it was a little bit of a stretch out of the reach of some people, including myself, for a long time. So I'm super grateful that this is now in the U.S. I can only imagine that it's going to flourish in the market. As all these other newcomers fight for a spot in there, I feel like this will have a pretty steady place. It's already established itself just in the brand alone of Powers. It's just pun intended, a powerhouse in the Irish whiskey market, and certainly for the single pot still range of Irish whiskeys. So that's it for this week's episode. If you want me to give it a score, I'd probably give it a 92, 93, sort of on the edge there. Again, a lot of people want to hear the scores. I don't really care about scores, to tell you the truth. And price point, I believe I picked this up for about $54 in and around there. So there you have it. That's episode 103 for you. As always, if you're going to drink responsibly, and we'll see you next time.